Hey there, everybody, and welcome to the new stage of my podcast. What was called the Aquarian is now spiritual context for worldly chaos. To begin, let me just reintroduce this podcast and what the next 3 months are going to kind of look like. So I loved the interviews that I did in 2023. And I want to bring them back to the forefront. I recorded with peers from across the spiritual community, and I had a rare privilege of speaking to 16 of them, each of them offering a distinct lens and language for their work. And some were tarot readers with sharply different perspectives, and others were astrologers, psychics, Enneagram readers, and more. And what made these conversations especially meaningful was the range of expression. Not just what they practiced, but how they understood it. So that's where this is going to begin. And I think that's a good starting point. But also, which is amazing, almost all of them have accepted the invitation to come back on the show. And all of them have done such incredible things since 2023. And after listening to the interviews from before, it was really cool to come up with new questions and want to dive in different ways. And Jessica is going to be asking some questions too, because that's the point of this, is to speak across all levels of spirituality. Jessica's still a budding spiritualist, and I've been doing this for a really long time. And so it's wonderful to hear her take on these previous interviews as well. So that's where this podcast is beginning, or maybe how it's transforming, is using what I connected to before in order to launch into the future. And as the time goes on, you're going to hear more and more about what we'll be moving on to after these interviews. And I'm really excited about that. But I think this is a great place to begin. All right, so let's get this started. My first aired guest in 2023 is also my first guest that I re-interviewed, and I'm so happy about that. I love Sheryl Wagner, and I can't wait to bring her old interview back up, and I can't wait for you all to hear what we discussed in the past couple of weeks. So this is part 1 of her 2023 interview. We have cut it up into 5, so it will air Monday through Friday, and on Saturday, January 10th, we will air the full second interview. Okay, now I'll step aside and let 2023 me introduce Sheryl Wagner. This week's guest is psychic medium and tarot reader Sheryl Wagner, and I'm very excited to introduce her to everyone. I met Sheryl within the last 2 years, and I was instantly drawn to her the second I met her. She's not only a sensitive medium and a skilled teacher, but her energy soothes your anxiety, creating courage where there may not have been any before. I'm still unfolding, still getting used to how energy flows through me, and Sheryl makes it easy to jump in the deep end. Though we haven't worked together very long, I absolutely consider her a mentor. We'll be talking a lot about her book, Uncovering Intuition, Guidance, Inspiration, and Exercises to Unlock Your Inner Wisdom. And now, on to the interview. Sheryl is a psychic medium, teacher, and author of Uncovering Intuition, Guidance, Inspiration, and Exercises to Unlock Your Inner Wisdom. Based in Canton, Massachusetts, Sheryl works with clients worldwide through private sessions and workshops. Welcome, Sheryl. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've only known you for like a year, I think, maybe a little bit over a year.
Yeah.
But I remember when I found you, and I'm sure a lot of psychics are like this, but I'm a bit skeptical, and it's very hard for me to feel good around somebody. And when I went to your mediumship meetup, it was on Eventbrite, I think, at the time.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd already gone to a couple of them throughout my long, years in New York. And I was like, I got to find something that's digital, because it was during the pandemic. And I was like, I need to like be around people who are like this. And when I first met you, you were just so, and you say this, we're going to bring up your book, but you say this in the book, you're so calming. Like your presence is so calming. Like no matter how you feel it inside, it's just like it's just like a sister, like
That's
you like
so nice to hear.
Give people like room and space to kind of go at their own pace. And I didn't even say anything in the meetup. I think I've been twice already. I'm going to go soon too. But like, I couldn't say anything. I was just so nervous to be around everybody, but you didn't make me feel like an outsider or like I was, what are you doing? Why don't you try something? So I just want to say like, just knowing you and now getting to interview you is just awesome. Like, I'm really excited. Yes.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited too. And isn't it interesting how you talk about like meetups and I need to be around these people? I feel like we can sort of recognize one another.
Oh my God, yeah.
We're like magical people. We can just kind of recognize one another. And
totally.
I feel like it's like, I don't even need to know you. It's just when you're in my space, it's like that recognition. I always think about like, if I would have walked by you like 100 years ago in a village, it's like, I would know.
Oh my God, I love that. See, that's what I need to be around is, it's like just like the idea that that's even like a possibility is so comforting for people like us who don't really experience time the way other people do, don't experience sensations the way other people do. I mean, we do, but it's like there's an extrasensory perception on top of it, and it's like, it's hard to feel accepted like that.
For sure.
So let's get into this. So I bought your book. It's called Uncovering Intuition.
Thank you.
I was like, oh God, I have to buy this book now. I need to read all about her. So it's called Uncovering Intuition, Guidance, Inspiration, and Exercises to Unlock Your Inner Wisdom. And I was incredibly touched by your story. Like I teared up. I'm going to tear up right now. Like I teared up like a couple of times because it's not only so relatable. I definitely saw a parallel between us. We didn't grow up in the same place. We're not in the same family, but I felt the same issues that you were going through, like ADHD and, a lot of the abuse that you went through and like just kind of getting to know yourself and getting to understand how these things work inside of you. But what I really felt throughout the first 90 pages, that's really like a big part of your life. And then it keeps going throughout the exercises. But you brought it up a couple times that you had to kind of reconcile that you were going to have to write this book.
Yes.
So I wanted to know, like, what was the process of writing the book then? What did get you to sit down? What did make you feel like this is the time to do it?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was saying before I wrote the book, I was saying for a long time, I'm writing a book. So I just want to mention that in case like that's you or that's someone else. I was saying it a lot. I sort of was, but I wasn't really, it hadn't completely opened up. But in 2020, so I was getting divorced and I was living on my own for the first time in probably 20 years. And I had my kids every other week. I have 2 older teenagers. And so I had those weeks where I was alone. And I think that empty space,
Wow.
We always talk about like, oh, I need to take space. I need to take a step back.
The void.
Yeah, that empty space really, I feel like was just necessary for it to kind of just come out of me.
Yeah.
And for me to start just writing it. And yeah, you mentioned, having ADHD. I do. And I was diagnosed later in life, like a lot of women are in my 30s. And I got a writing coach who was great. And that really helped me, like someone to help organize me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to start with your introduction.
Yes.
Because I read everybody's introduction because I feel like that's where, you kind of lay it bare. Because I don't know if everybody does read the introduction, but it's like, let me just like give you some like moments in the book that like, if you miss it, it's here right now. You answered a common question that people have. And is it possible to miss my destiny or go off course? But you explained it that we never directly miss what's meant for us, but rather we dismiss the signs that we're maybe off course or that we may be feeling something that should kind of push us back into this right direction. Is that how you meant it? Is that like we don't miss it, but we may dismiss it?
I think so. I think it's both. I think a lot of people worry, let's say sensitive people or people with anxiety. I have anxiety. I live with and manage my anxiety. And I think that's a lot of sensitive people. And I say that we're sensitive, highly intuitive, highly sensitive, psychics, mediums, people I work with and
Yeah.
and talk to. And even most of my clients are sensitive. And I think a lot of us worry, are we missing something? Are we going to miss what's meant for us?
Yeah.
Did I miss my destiny? And I think that usually when we have that feeling, for me, it tends to like rise up in my gut. And it's like, did I miss it? Like that feeling of missing something. And it's that
Yeah,
fear.
for sure.
Usually it rises up when we're about to do something or change course or have this like course correction. And I think it's that final fear and discomfort of like, what if I don't make it, And so first, I think it's not possible. I think that there's not these sort of like predetermined right or wrong choices. I think will always be gently course corrected. But I also think that discomfort is usually a really strong indicator that we need to take action on our own behalf, that we need to kind of take that leap of faith and just be suspended in air
Yeah,
and like let the
absolutely.
universe say yes back to us. We need to decide.
Yeah. Very hanged man.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Very like,
or
yeah,
the
like,
fool.
or the fool. Exactly. Like the fool is like taking your free will leap.
Yeah.
And the hanged man is saying, I just don't know.
Yes.
And like letting go and like letting yourself sort of slip into another place. And maybe sometimes, like you're saying, like if we are dismissing the fact that some change needs to happen and we're maybe holding something back, it may not be that we're ever going to miss our destiny, but we might make it a bit harder for ourselves just in general because the anxiety is bubbling up. I remember when I was, there's been a couple of times in my life that I've had long manifestations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, these are like years. These are like year-long.
Yeah.
Because if you're in a certain like financial position or if you have a family or if you have certain things get longer because there's so much more responsibility involved. There's so much more you have to do in order to get to where you want to be. And I would just let myself fret like crazy. I would just get so upset all the time. And I do it because I felt like that's what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be that anxious. I was supposed to let other people know that I was that anxious. But inside, I knew I was going to be fine. And even this manifestation now, I'm practicing what you're saying. It's like, it's not that I'm going to miss my destiny or I'm doing something that's off, even if it doesn't look the way that I see it in my mind right now. But I am letting myself calm down a little bit more. It's like, just because you're walking by moonlight or just because it's not apparent doesn't mean it isn't happening. And you don't have to get yourself completely in a fret just because it's taking a longer time than you expected.
It's so true.
So now I'm going to go on to something in the book that was a bit traumatizing for you, but it's more about what happened because of that trauma. So you said in the book that you spent 13 years from 2004 to 2017 totally repressing your psychic sensitivity and even your emotions.
Yeah.
And to the point where it was commented on by your family that they would say like you didn't even cry when the dog died kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I want to go to one specific page. Like there is a really great moment that you wrote, "The years I spent in survival mode with unprocessed trauma are not easy to recall. Often I find I have just enough memories to piece my story together. The things I did to cope during that period left me feeling disconnected from my body, which then left me disconnected from my intuition and my mediumship abilities." And I believe a lot of my listeners have, or anybody, it doesn't even have to just be people who listen to this, have a lot of unprocessed trauma and have a lot of things that they don't really know how to differentiate inside of their bodies. So they all shut down.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are also ready to open up and they just don't really know how. So can you elaborate on the feeling of being repressed to that moment of opening up a little bit? Like, was there like a sense of like relief or just, did you feel yourself opening?
Yeah, I think it is a universal experience for a lot of people. So I don't think that I'm unique in this, and that's why I wrote about it.
Yeah.
But I feel like I did really intentionally close down a lot of things because I felt that I needed to. I talk about in the book, I worked in the auto industry. I worked as a finance manager, and I felt like in order to kind of keep that job to keep it going. At the time, I was married to my ex-husband and I'm gay. So in order to kind of keep, the wheels on the wagon, keep things rolling,
That's
I
a
had
pretty
to,
important part.
yeah, like I had to put away certain parts of myself.
Yeah.
And, I don't think we have to wait until a moment of crisis to listen to that subtle guidance. But for me, I really waited probably way too long. And so, I was disconnected from my body. I had an eating disorder. I was really very shut down.
Yeah.
And so when I started opening up emotionally, everything started opening up. And so it was like a more extreme situation. But eventually it was a release. It was a relief, I would say. Yeah,
But
eventually
that initial, okay. So like initially it was more like, I can't handle kind of anything. It's all sort of pouring out. Like you can't even maybe, you don't even maybe like what you're experiencing. It's just like, a puncture wound where everything is starting to flow out.
Yeah, I really had this groundless feeling of like, I felt like my life was ending. I did. And I think that gives a lot of courage to us as well.
Yeah.
It gave me courage to quit my job. At the same time, it was sort of an ultimatum. They said you either have to come back 60 hours a week or more, or you can't work here anymore. And so it's like these ultimatums. So that helped, but it was, I couldn't hold it together anymore. And I think that feeling of groundlessness and, the world is not as I understood it. I am not who I thought. All of these things like gave me this sort of courage to kind of go out, and that was just 5 years ago, this month.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And
wow.
and that's when I started.
That's right, because it was 2017. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's when I started my business. I started working professionally. So that was a process, but I started working professionally as a medium 5 years ago this month.
I completely understand. That's kind of how I sort of felt with changing from acting. I'd spent 10, 15 years pushing towards something that I thought was going to get rid of my thoughts about this stuff. Like I thought it was like, I didn't have anybody in my family. This is you too. You don't have anybody in your family. You just know of, your grandmother used to do tea leaves, or did you know that grandmother?
My great grandmother used to read
your
the
great
tea
grandmother.
leaves. I definitely have some, people in my family, I would say mom and siblings that have lots, they could probably step in and, do lots of the things that I do or have the experiences I have. I was just telling someone the other day, I had a wart on my hand when I was little, and my mom got rid of it by rubbing a stick. You break the stick in half, you bury it in the front yard, and it like went away.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and I always thought that was so great. I was like, is it psychological? Yeah, so there's definitely that sort of mysticism in my family, and things like that. But I wasn't like trained that way.
Right, exactly. Like, you weren't told, you weren't talked to about it. Or I think that's just sort of a misconception among a lot of us, is that if you aren't directly trained by your matriarch, you're not going to succeed. And it's like, succeeding meaning, if you're talking about psychic and spirituality, it's more so just becoming who you are. It doesn't necessarily have to be monetized, but it is very important to know, like, it's just like singing, if you feel like you've always wanted to be a singer and you don't really have the natural gift for it, there are people who are better singers than natural singers just because they worked on it so much.
It's true.
So it's a natural skill. And it's so, that's why I also love your book, because that's the relatable part, is like, it's not saying that you didn't experience things growing up. It's not saying that you didn't have, you weren't able to see your guides. You weren't able, but you just don't know what to do with it. You don't know what what do you do with this? And then on top of that, pushing other things down. So it's like the life that you had to have the finance person. It had to have this other person in order to make it work. Thank you very much for joining us. And if you'd like to sign up to my Substack, you will receive a newsletter every Sunday called This Week in the Sky. And that's where we go over what is coming up in astrology in the week ahead. So I will let you all know what retrogrades are coming up, when transits are happening, when new moons, full moons, eclipses, all sorts of things. So that's where I discuss that. And I also offer a little tarot reading every week. So if you like that kind of thing, feel free to sign up to my Substack, and you can find that in the description box below. Thank you again, and I will be seeing you soon. Take care.